Hello and welcome back to Drive Home Review. So before we get to the actual reviewing, I want to just call attention to some changes in the attire going on here. First, this lovely hat was given to me by a student for my birthday. I used to have one just like it in cloth when I first moved to Tennessee. I wore it for a few years back in Alaska, but stopped for reasons. And so this was a gift. I really like it. However, since I'm about to review, I have to wear it, like this. Kind of have the whole Yale English department look going. And I'm all in black. If this was a turtleneck and I had me some beatnik glasses and I did this, after everything, But what I really want to call attention to is the new Drive Home Review hoodie. A very dear friend of mine from college and her daughter are big fans of the show. They're very big supporters of it. They watch the reviews all the time. They've coined the term fandons, which I love. We need to make this an official thing, folks. And they made this for me for my 41st birthday this past week, and I love it. I love it very much. Well, I'm not retiring the old look. We're still you'll see it. We're just gonna do a rotate. We're gonna switch them out, change it up a little bit each time. But I really love this, so I wanted to draw attention. And the hat. A lot of changes to my fashion, which is good, because anybody who knows me knows that my fashion sense is, I don't have any. Which is funny, because when you consider that one of the things I like about, this movie is the costume design. Costume design of this is spectacular, like almost flawless. There's a few things here we'll talk about in a minute. Also, before we get started, I just want to say, I'll turn this off now. When it comes to the Jane Austen canon, Emma is the one I know the very least about. And honestly, I was thinking about, until today, I had never seen any adaptations of it. Ever. Which is weird, because I've seen tons of adaptations of Sense and Sensibility. I've seen tons of adaptations of Pride and Prejudice. The closest thing I've gotten to seeing a film version of Emma was Clueless, the teen movie in the 90s, which, is to the source material what 10 Things I Hate About You is to Taming of the Shrew. So I went into this one completely cold, which I think is a good thing in a way, because you're in that instance, you're not burdened with the whole, let's compare it to all the other versions. I'm going in completely fresh and looking at it completely on its own merits. So let's talk about this. So coming at it from its own merits, the question is, how is it? And the answer is, it's not bad. It's not bad. There's a lot of really good stuff in this. I think the creme de la creme, I mentioned this a second ago, is design-wise, production design-wise, it's a beautiful looking film. The director of this, Autumn de Winter, I think the name is. No, it's Autumn de Wilde. Ha! See, I studied these. Is, from what I could look, from the little bit of research I did while the credits were rolling, is a fairly new feature film director. His previous credits are all, music videos and whatnot. Which is interesting. So in a way, this is a new director's first feature. This is their, kind of their debut. And in a way, you can kind of tell, both in the positive and the negative. Positively, it's because there's a very fresh and very original directorial eye going on here. This director has a very, very clear vision and frames his shots and everything in a very specific way, which gives the film a very unique look, gives it a very modern look, which is interesting. One of the things I like about this movie is that it's a modern, quote-unquote, retelling, but still set in the appropriate time period. It's modern in the way it's looked, it's modern in the way it's shot, it's modern in very subtle ways in the performances. Anya Taylor-Joy, who plays Emma, it is playing her purely as a millennial. Still using all of the proper diction, all the proper dialogue, the manners and everything of a Jane Austen novel, but little things like the way she rolls her eyes, the way she annoyingly kind of flips open the carriage window with her finger is very modern. I see those looks on my students' faces all the time. So it's a unique blend of the original setting with very subtle touches in the performances that make it modern. Visually, very modern. The insides, the interiors of all the sets are painted in this bright, not fluorescent, pastels, bright pastels. Almost like you're inside an Easter egg. To the point where, it almost looks like you're in a dollhouse. The costumes are very bright, very colorful. Like I say, the costume design of this is, as it should be, is gorgeous. I really love this time period and the fashions for women. This coming from the brief training I had as a costume designer. I don't know, there's something about the silhouette of it. It's not the hyper tension of like the Victorian era or anything, but it's still formal and fitting. So it's this neat combination of loose and fitted. I don't know. It's a really nice look. Combine that with the colors. Pardon me. I'm sorry. My voice is taking a long time healing. It's been sounding like this for a while. But anyway. So combine that natural look with the very rich color scheme, and you get a very unique looking film. It's very pretty to look at, and some of the shots are just brilliantly composed. I always think, and I've mentioned this in a couple other reviews, but I'll mention it here. After seeing so many things, like the Avengers, the Godzilla movies, seeing so many of these big special effects laden blockbusters, sometimes it's really nice to go and see a film that takes advantage of just how naturally beautiful the countryside and everything can be. There's a gorgeous shot outside one house on this big tree with flowers coming off it. It's a gorgeous shot. I'm going to turn this back on. I think we need a little bit more light. There we go. Gorgeous shot. And there's a lot of those in there. The coloring of the costumes does have one or two minor drawbacks. Twice, Emma's friend Harriet, and I don't know the actor's name playing her, is wearing her dress, and she's wearing gloves. In one of them, they're bright blue gloves. In one of them, they're bright yellow gloves, and they're gloves that come right about, up to here on the arm. So it looks like she's wearing dishwashing gloves. And it's very distracting. And I think that is where we can start getting into the negatives a little bit. As I said a few minutes ago, you have a fairly new director, primarily of music videos, given the reins to a large scale film here, and the director goes nuts. Is having fun playing with a toy box. And I see this in the young directors I teach, that when you give them the freedom, when you say, okay, it's your turn to direct a show, they go fucking crazy. They want everything. No matter how much you tell them, hey, it's your first time out, you might want to pare it down a little bit. They don't hear that. Or they hear it and they just choose not to. Oh, I know it's wrong. Anyway, because they're so excited. They want to get it. They want to direct. They want to do it. And I think here's the same thing. I believe it's a he, at least from the picture on IMDb, and that rhymes. He wants so bad for, to use every trick and every tool, and a lot of times it's distracting. There's odd blocking in this. The film is there's a couple scenes where the blocking is very awkward. They do big circles a couple times, and I'm not just talking about when they're doing the fancy ballroom dancing. I mean, they're in having conversation and they get up, do a weird circle around, and then come back to a point. This is what I call, broad strokes blocking. This is what you do in the early stages of a rehearsal to just kind of mark where you're going to have the actors go, and then you'll fill in the details later. So yeah, it's very weird. Performance-wise, I think the movie is decent. It doesn't have any big name star, with the exception of Bill Nighy, who we'll talk about in a second, to kind of hang its hat on. And in a way, I think that's good. It's a movie of not so much unknowns, but actors without big name recognition, at least as far as I know. Anna Taylor-Joy, up to this point, the only thing I'd seen her in was that, was Split, and I guess she did the sequel, the Glass film, and I remember her from Split. I thought she was about as good as anybody could be in that piece of shit. And I think she does a fairly decent job here. I think I don't know. I looked her up on IMDb and just did a quick search, but it looks like this is her first big role, her first name above the title kind of role. And I think she acquits herself to it very admirably. But there's a certain lack of star power in it. There's none of the performances. The performances are good, very good, but there isn't one that reaches out and grabs me and makes me go, ooh, I want to watch that. There are a couple of characters who have some moments, but I can't say anything really just, caught my attention, or I'm even now trying to think of where were those moments that I went, ooh, that was good. There were a couple of them. I thought the guy who plays Emma's sister's husband, he was pretty funny. He had a couple really good reactions to things. The guy playing Mr. Knightley, her eventual boyfriend, he was decent, though it was distracting because he looked like what would happen if you genetically spliced Owen Wilson and Heath Ledger together. Half the time he looked like Owen Wilson, half the time he looked like Heath Ledger. It was very weird. But I thought he acquitted himself fairly well. Sometimes they got going really fast, especially in the early goings of the film. They got going really fast with the dialogue and the accents, and it was hard to it was almost like listening to Shakespeare. I got lost for a little while trying to figure out who was who and what was what and what was going on. It was so I don't know if that's their fault or mine. So yeah, the thing that surprises me about this is you have Bill Nighy in this playing Emma's father, and Bill Nighy is a phenomenal actor, brilliant character actor. One of those actors that I would say I've never seen give a bad performance. He's always good. But I can't say that anymore. He's not bad in this, but he looks, honest to God, he looks like he walked in off of another set. They put the costume on him and pushed him out in front of the camera because he looks completely lost. And I know that the character he's playing is supposed to be older and, a little bit more, I don't want to say senile, but, older, a hypochondriac kind of thing. But, I mean, he really does look like he has no clue what's happening or what he's supposed to be doing. And I don't know. I don't know what that is. I can only assume that's a choice made either by him or by the director. And whichever one of them made it, it wasn't the right one. He has a good silent moment at the very end when he is walking Emma down the aisle, and you kind of see the look on his face as he gives his youngest daughter, over to be married. It's a good act. Again, there you see just how good of an actor he is. But honestly, the rest of it, it's like, I was legitimately surprised and disappointed. I don't mind saying. Another one who gave it's just awful. And I have a feeling this was by design. Because again, I've seen Jane Austen movies and I know they all have the character like this in them. The guy who played the priest, who Emma is trying to hook up with Harriet, but he's really trying to get with Emma. That guy. The guy who is not necessarily a villain, but not as a nice guy as he's made out to be early on. Boy, that guy was terrible. He was hamming it up and chewing that pastel scenery so much. He was mincing about like a silent film villain. His acting was so over the top, I swear to God, it was so bad that I swear that he just walked over from one of those god-awful Fantastic Beast movies, which he may have. He may be in it. I don't know. But yeah, he was awful every time. And again, I have a feeling that was by design. Like I said, I've never read the book, but I know Jane Austen novels enough to know they all have that kind of character, that foppish, over-the-top character in them. So it sounds like I'm dumping on this movie. And I don't mean to, because I think, again, visually it's very good. I think Anna Taylor-Joy does an admirable job as Emma. I think she has a lot of talent, and I think she has a bright future ahead of her. I just don't know what it is. I don't know if it's just the lateness of the hour, the longness of the week, or what, but this movie didn't grab me. And there were long stretches where I was rather bored by it. But I appreciate it from the standpoint of, again, very distinct and clear directorial choices, which I always appreciate. I really like the concept of making it modern without making it modern or filling it with anachronisms, like a comedy. It just didn't hook me. Just didn't hook me. But if you're a Jane Austen fan, or just kind of up for an entertaining piece of fluff, you could do a lot worse than this film. So, final grade for Emma, period. Yeah, that's the other thing. It's something I found very weird with the poster and the title card. The name of the film is Emma, period. Not Emma, period. Got to make sure you get that period in there. Maybe it's because it's a period piece. Ba-doom-ching, thank you. Sorry, it's past midnight. I'm tired. I've been up since 5 a.m. What do you want? Anyway, final grade for Emma, period. I'm going to go a B- on this one. I think if it didn't have the strong visual style and the understated performance of Miss Joy, it would probably go down into the C range for me. But I think both those elements are strong enough and conspire to create a interesting enough looking and sounding and feeling picture that it saves it. It's still kind of just about average for me. So yeah. All right. So there you have it. That's my review of Emma. So, trying to catch up. I feel like I'm always playing catch up so far in 2020 in everything. But trying to play catch up from not reviewing a film last week. So, thinking I'm going to hit another one on Sunday. We'll see how that goes. If not, there's plenty coming out the following week. So, Until next week, thanks for joining us. And as always, drive safe, and I'll see you at the movies.